and welcome to Fully Embodied. My name is Kristen Calabria, and I'm a yoga and mindfulness teacher here in Los Angeles, California. Before we begin, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about me and who I am. So I attended Boston University and received my BFA in acting. I was an actor, and then I became a yoga actor, and now I'm pursuing my license as a marriage and family therapist. So, like many of you joining this conversation today, I too know what it feels like to wear a lot of different hats. The entertainment industry functions on uncertainty and change. All of us live in a reality in which we don't know what our next job is. We're constantly changing where we're working, what character we're playing. And so these pillars of uncertainty and change, when combined and compounded with the global distress and uncertainty that's happening because of the COVID-19 pandemic, might create some heightened feelings of anxiety and depression and stress. Completely normal. It's happening all around us all the time. And so today I wanted us to dive into a conversation of how to navigate with grace the uncertainty and change during the pandemic and also after. So Fully Embodied is about integrating the knowledge of the body and the knowledge of the mind. We are going to journey through the physical body as a pathway to the mental and emotional body. We'll learn about stress and anxiety and discover practices for listening to our physical bodies, and then process what's coming up through reflection and journaling. So we're first going to take an intellectual dive into what exactly is anxiety and stress, and then we'll move through a physical practice, finish up with a reflection, and then we'll do a live Q&A session. So I think it's first really important for us to understand the difference between anxiety and fear. Oftentimes those two constructs get conflated because they have similar body symptoms, but they're actually two different ideas. Anxiety is a worry about something that may or may not occur in the future, and fear is an emotion that occurs in response to a perceived or real threat of danger. So to put this into an example, say we're crossing the street and I'm standing on one end of the sidewalk, there's a road, a crosswalk, and then on the other end of the street is another sidewalk. Say I'm standing on sidewalk A. Before I even enter the crosswalk, I'm thinking of, oh man, I'm probably gonna get in that crosswalk and like trip, and what if I trip and fall and then I can't get up and nobody helps me, and then like a car like goes through the crosswalk and totally runs over my hand. Or another anxiety might be, I'm still standing on the sidewalk, but what if I enter the crosswalk, and then a biker who's trying to like peel by me, clips me, totally gashes open my leg. Or another anxiety might be, what if I'm in the middle of the sidewalk and a car just comes barreling through trying to make it through that light, doesn't see me, and I get hit. So those are all worries about things that may or may not happen in the future. Fear, on the other hand, looks like I am actually in the crosswalk and I look to my left and there is a car that is barreling down the road at like 45 miles an hour with no intention of stopping. That feeling that's happening as I see that car approaching me is the feeling of fear. But whether what we're experiencing is anxiety about something that may happen in the future or fear, that immediate response to danger, there's a particular system in our body that's activated. And we call that sympathetic nervous system hyperarousal, or SNS hyperarousal. It's more commonly referred to as fight, flight, or freeze. So in fight, we try to fight off the perceived or real threat of danger. In flight, we're running away from the perceived threat of danger. And in freeze, it's kind of like a deer in headlights moment where we freeze and we stop exactly what we're doing. It's important to understand that SNS hyperarousal is not inherently bad or something that we want to eradicate completely from our bodies and our functioning. It actually is a built-in protective mechanism to help keep us alive in the face of very real danger. And in order to do that, there's a few different things that happen in our brains and in our bodies. And we'll go over what happens in the brain first. So there's a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. And that is the main area of the brain that's implicated in executive functioning. So perceiving, creativity, decision-making, processing information. That part of the brain has a lower activation or activity level when we're in sympathetic nervous system hyperarousal. Similarly, the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that is implicated in storing memories long-term, is also way less active than it would be out of SNS hyperarousal. And then finally, the amygdala, which is the emotional center of the brain, in this case, it's acting as the fear center of the brain, is way more active than normal. And then other things will happen in the body, like adrenaline is being pumped into our body to give us that ability to run faster or lift heavier. Norepinephrine is being pumped into our body. It's the body's natural pain reliever, so that if you're running away from something and you trip and you twist your ankle, you won't feel the pain of that twisted ankle until you're out of that threat of danger. So let's go ahead and look at these three categories of symptoms that we might be in SNS hyperarousal. In my body in particular, I notice that when I'm in that state of functioning, my palms get really sweaty and my breath feels very shallow. It almost feels like it's stuck in my throat. My heart starts to beat super fast. For many people, there's the inhibition of bowel movement, and our bodies increase glucose production so that our muscles have the fuel that they need to run or fight. In our feelings or our emotions, I often feel like I just can't control my emotions. So instead, my emotions are controlling me. Other people feel like they have increased reactivity, so really tiny things will set them off. There might be the increased feelings of fear, anxiety, or depression. We also might feel hypervigilant or on edge, like we're constantly looking for signs of danger. And then finally, in our minds and our thoughts, I know that in my mind, it's really, really challenging for me to focus on any task in particular. Because there's this decrease in executive functioning, oftentimes we're less creative and we don't have the ability to take the perspective of another person. And those things are really important, especially for artists, if we are constantly in this SNS hyperarousal state because of our anxiety, because of our fear, because of the global distress that is happening. It's actually lessening our ability to creatively problem solve, to really be invested in the creative process of our art. So obviously these things are issues. They would get in our way of our normal everyday functioning. And there's two ways in which we can conceptualize helping ourselves manage or navigate anxiety, fear, and stress. The first way that we can do that is through this more traditional model, and I call it the top-down model. In this model, the brain is sort of acting as like the master computer that receives information, it processes information, it stores the information, sort of the mastermind behind the whole game. And in a top-down or traditional model, what we would do is try to reason our way through what's making us anxious or fearful and decide whether or not that feeling is useful. So let's take the example of trying to cross the street. I'm still on one side of the sidewalk and I'm nervous or anxious that I might trip and fall and nobody will help me and I will get run over by a car. I think to myself, okay, so that's my anxiety, that's my worry. Now let's look at the evidence. What evidence is there to support either the hypothesis that that will happen or that it won't? Well, out of probably the millions of times that I've crossed the street in my lifetime, I've maybe tripped like as I was crossing the street, like at the most 10 times. So the likelihood of me actually tripping in the middle of the sidewalk is quite low. And then I could think, okay, even if I do trip, I have personally witnessed just in the last maybe 3 years, people falling on the street and other people helping them up, or like collecting their bags, or picking up the cards that have strewn all over the place out of their wallet. So there is evidence to suggest that somebody would help me if I fell in the middle of a crosswalk. I can't really think of evidence that might support the idea that I would trip and fall and no one would help me. So in that case, it's much more likely that I will successfully cross the street and I can go on with the rest of my day, knowing that the likelihood of me actually having my anxious thought come true is very low. It's a lot of work for that one anxious thought. And it does, that top-down model works very well in many instances. However, when we're talking specifically about heightened states of SNS hyperarousal because of uncertainty and distress and change, that part of our brain that's doing that reasoning, the prefrontal cortex, is not as active as it would be otherwise. And so it might be really challenging for us to sit down and take the time to focus intentionally on that singular worry and then follow the thought process all the way through to the end. And one of the reasons why I love working with performing artists is because most of us are very in tune with our bodies, and we already understand the wealth of knowledge that comes from the body. So our bodies are incredibly smart, and experts now in several different fields recognize that in the body is stored anxiety and stress and trauma and emotions. Some of my favorite somatic experiencers, Alexander Technique teachers, and therapists have this phrase, which I think just captures the idea really well. It's issues in our tissues. So the idea that our emotions or a traumatic event or a situation that we're really stressed about will manifest itself as tightness, soreness, or stuckness in some part of our bodies. And so that brings us to the second way of trying to regulate or come out of SNS hyperarousal, called bottom-up regulation. In bottom-up regulation, we utilize the knowledge of the body to identify and then decrease the intensity, duration, or quality of distressing emotions. So we work with the body to help us calm down the feelings of worry, stress, and fear, and the thoughts that also accompany the feelings of worry, stress, and fear. The work that we're going to be doing today is that bottom-up work. And it's important to note that in the ideal world, we want to both think about bottom-up regulation and top-down regulation. Those things are quite important to us. We want to do them simultaneously, both at the same time. And so we will be going through in just a moment a guided meditation practice focused on the body, which will be the bottom-up regulation. And then we'll take some time after that guided meditation to do the top-down regulation, the processing with our conscious mind about the experience that we just had to help solidify and integrate that knowledge. So let's take a look at the different ways that we can work with the body. We're going to be doing the first three today. So it's a body scan, progressive muscle relaxation, and then Tonglen is a meditation practice borrowed from the Buddhist tradition. So in our practice today, I'm going to encourage you now to take a few moments to find a place where you can either lay down. I like to lay down in Shavasana, which is just laying down on your back, or sitting upright against a wall or a chair so that your back is supported. I don't want you to really have to like wiggle or fidget too much or worry about your posture. Just let your back be completely supported. And then once that's happened, we'll go ahead and I'll close our eyes. And it can be helpful to take your hands and just place them somewhere on your body to remind yourself that you have one. And then we'll empty out all of the air inside of our bodies. When you breathe in first from your belly, and then fill up your heart, and then fill all the way up to the very top of your head. And take a big breath out. And then try that again. So we want to fill ourselves from the bottom up. So fill up first belly, and then fill up your heart, and then go all the way to the top of your head. Hold your breath for just a moment. And a big breath out. And then one more time like that, breathing in through the nose, filling ourselves all the way up, belly, filling up heart, filling up head. And a big sigh of relief out of our mouths. And then let your breath find its natural rhythm and quality. Allow yourself to stay connected to the breath and know that if there's ever a moment where what we're doing becomes overwhelming, you can always come back to this feeling, this softness, this place of safety, and then join us again when you're ready. Keeping the breath rolling around in your attention, I want you to take your mind's eye and find your feet in your mind's eye. So we'll be drawing the image of our feet. And when we think about the image of our feet, it's not just the picture of the feet, but I also want you to include the feeling of your socks or your shoes or the carpet or the wood floor against your feet. If your feet are hot or cold, or maybe they're a little bit clammy. If there's places in the arches or the toes or the top of your feet that feel kind of tight or sore, tense, uncomfortable, or excited, energized, fidgety. And then when you have a very clear picture of your feet in your mind's eye, go ahead and just scrunch up your feet like little fists. And then hold that fist, take a big breath in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale, let it all go. And then allow your mind's eye to travel up to your shin bones, your calves, your kneecaps, your ankles. And in the same way, draw the image of this part of your body. Again, not just the visual representation, but noticing the temperature, the texture of your clothes against your skin. Even taking note if it's really hard for you to draw one part of your body or recognize one part of your body, that's incredibly valuable information. Once you have an image of the lower part of your legs in your mind, go ahead and squeeze your calves, your shins, your knees, your ankles at a 7 out of 10. Take a big breath in. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let it go. Allow your mind's eye to now travel up to your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your hips, your pelvic bowl. Drawing that image, including the visuals, the temperature, the texture of clothes against skin, the tightness, the pliability, the availability. And then also notice if there's things like thoughts or feelings that happen to be popping up in this moment. It's no coincidence that those feelings and thoughts live right here. And then when you have a very clear image in your mind's eye of the upper part of your legs, go ahead and squeeze your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your hips. Take a big breath in, hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale, let it go. And now allow your mind's eye to travel up to your torso, your stomach, the small of your back, the middle part of your back, your upper back, your shoulders, your chest, the sides of your waist. Start to create that image. Again, noticing if there's any part of you that's hard to visualize. If there's a thought that's happening now that keeps wanting your attention, if there's a feeling, even if that feeling is annoyance or frustration or boredom. And then once you have that very clear picture in your mind's eye, go ahead and give your stomach, your back, your shoulders, your chest a squeeze. Big breath in, hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale, let it go. Allow your mind's eye to travel to your fingers, your palm, your whole hand, your wrist, up to your forearm, your upper arm, the tops of your shoulders, even your neck and your throat. Start to trace the image in your mind's eye, letting it be as fantastical or as realistic as you'd like. Are there colors? Are there sounds? Are there textures? Are there thoughts? Are there feelings? Is there temperature? And once you have that image clearly in your mind, scrunch up your hands like fists, bend your elbows like a bicep curl, shrug your shoulders all the way up to your ears, even clench your throat if you can. Take a big breath in and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale, let it go. And then finally allow your mind's eye to travel up to your head, the features of your face, your chin, your ears, the back of your skull, the crown of your head, your hair. Noticing what places are easy for me to visualize, what are hard. Maybe it's not a visual image that happens, but instead it's a sensation, or it's a feeling, or it's a thought. And that is just as full and real an image as the visual depiction. And when you have that holistic image in your mind's eye, scrunch up your face, try to even scrunch up your scalp, take a big breath in and hold that clenched face for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale, let it go. On your inhale, from the soles of your feet all the way up to the top of your head, do that lightning quick scan. And exhale, top of head down to the soles of your feet. Feel the air illuminate the images that you created. Inhale, soles of the feet all the way up to the very top of your head. And exhale, top of the head all the way down to the soles of the feet. Allow your attention to return back to your breath. Then take one hand and place it on your heart, and one hand and place it on your belly. And on your inhale, I'd like you to breathe in all of the pain, the uncomfortable, the sadness, the challenge, the struggle, the depression, the anger, the anxiety that you are feeling. Take a big breath in, fill yourself up with that, and hold that breath in the space of your heart. And then on your exhale, you'll breathe out compassion, healing, love, empathy, generosity. And we'll try that again, breathing in, filling yourself up with a cloud of black smoke, all of the pain, the suffering, the hurt, the tension, the soreness, the stuckness, the challenges, the struggles. Hold that breath in your heart space. And as you breathe out, it's a puff of white smoke, healing, compassion, patience, generosity, empathy, understanding. And try that again. Breathing in all of your pain, your suffering, your hurt, your tension, your soreness, your tightness, the stuckness. Breathing in that cloud of black smoke. Hold the black smoke in your heart space. And then it's transformed on the exhale into a puff of white smoke, that healing, compassion, understanding, empathy, generosity, patience. And now for a community that needs your support. Breathe in their pain, their hurt, their challenges, their struggles, their anxiety, their depression. Hold it in your heart space, and then as you breathe out, it transforms into healing, understanding, compassion, generosity, patience for them. Try that again, breathing in through your nose, filling up that cloud of black smoke into your heart space, the community's pain, suffering, challenges, adversity, hurt, tension, stuckness, soreness, tightness, oppression. Hold your breath. In your heart, it's transformed, and you exhale that white cloud of healing, patience, understanding, compassion, generosity. And then one more time, breathing in that cloud of black smoke, the pain and the suffering, the hurt, the struggles, the challenge, the stuckness of a community in need. Hold that black smoke in your heart where it's transformed. And then on your exhale, breathe out empathy, compassion, healing, understanding, patience, generosity in a puff of white smoke. Gently allow your hands to return to someplace comfortable. Allow your breath to find its natural rhythm again. And there's no rush, but when you're ready, you'll gently open your eyes and come back to the group. And there's no rush at all to come back, but while we're waiting, I'm going to pull up some questions to help us process that experience. So you can either do this by writing in a journal or just thinking about the answers to the questions, but a few minutes to reflect on what just happened. Where did I feel tension in my body? Before the exercise, what were the quality of my thoughts and my feelings? After the exercise, what were the qualities of my thoughts and feelings? The tension that I felt in my body, how has this tension and stress served and protected me in the past? How has this tension and stress served and protected me in the past? Do I need this stress to protect me right now? So again, these questions are to help us consciously understand the experience that our bodies just went through. And if you're looking to take a deeper dive into the experience, I'll put up another set of questions that you can feel free to answer or not, journal about or not, think about or not. How was this practice for you today? If it was challenging, what made it so? If it felt easeful, describe the experience of ease. What thoughts came up? Were there any threads that you followed more than others? What thoughts are still lingering? Did any judgments bubble to the surface? If so, name them. Where did you learn these judgments? How did you react to the judgments during the practice? How was your reaction different or similar from how you usually respond? Did you experience any emotion? Where did you feel those emotions in your body? How intensely did you experience them? What is your relationship with those emotions? So again, just a few moments to process that experience. And these questions, along with a script for that full guided meditation that we just did, will be available on the resources page. So you can feel free to check back in with yourself and use that practice during these stressful times, but also after things return back to normal and the craziness and the hectic lifestyles that we're all used to come back into play. So just a few more moments to wrap up your own processing, and then we'll meet each other for some Q&A.
Here's what I'm trying to do. Thanks.